was based and skilled at writing. He fully pardoned most commuted sentences and ordered an immediate release of those still imprisoned, ending years of harsh solitary confinement, denied due process, and family separation for exercising their First Amendment rights. Thousands of Americans paid the price for political failures they did not create. Since January 6, 2021, Nancy Pelosi spent over 3 years and nearly $20 million in taxpayer funds on her partisan select committee, producing a scripted TV spectacle to fabricate an insurrection narrative and pin all blame on President Trump. Video and audio recordings, including unaired HBO footage from her own daughter, show Nancy Pelosi repeatedly acknowledged responsibility for the catastrophic security failures, admitting, "We have totally failed, and I take full responsibility for not having the National Guard pre-deployed, despite intelligence warnings and President Trump's offers of troops that were ignored under her leadership as Speaker." The Democrats masterfully reversed reality after January 6th. See? So masterfully, in fact, that even to this day, some Democrats say things like LOL, correct the record, more like gaslight the public. See? He's still under their thumb. I feel for you, Paulie. I feel for you, brother. Do I know I'm not on Locals right now? I am not on Locals right now. I'm not streaming to Locals right this second. I wasn't trying to stream to Locals. I hope there wasn't confusion. Yeah. All right. Democrats massively reversed reality after January 6th, branding peaceful patriotic protesters as insurrectionists and framing the event as a violent coup attempt orchestrated by Trump despite no evidence of armed rebellion or intent to overthrow the government. In truth, it was the Democrats who staged the real insurrection by certifying a fraud-ridden election, ignoring widespread irregularities, and weaponizing federal agencies to hunt down dissenters, all while Pelosi's own security lapses invited the chaos they later exploited to seize and consolidate power. This gaslighting narrative allowed them to prosecute innocent Americans, silence opposition, and distract from their own role in undermining democracy. That's what they did. They undermined democracy. Here's a video of Nancy admitting that she takes responsibility. This was in the car when they were fleeing, when she was fleeing after the siege began.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
Because of you.
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how they have, but they don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Yeah, this is what's most interesting about this video is that it's a rare time where she normally is so judicious in how she phrases things whenever there's a camera that she's aware of being anywhere near her. It almost makes you wonder. The first time I saw this video was some years back, and I remember thinking that she's trying to portray it as if she's like she's the responsible one in the room. Like, they're children and I should have known better. That's how she's trying to portray it. They're children and I should have known better and I should have forced them. Not realizing that anyone who looks at this circumstance and understands anything about how the law operates understands that the National Guard cannot go into the Capitol or help protect the Capitol without her clearance first. So I think she didn't realize that would become public. I do think that this was not accident. I don't think this is her being caught. I actually think this is her trying to spread a narrative that in this moment, this is something she had intended to say on camera, if in fact that, she was there and she didn't think it through properly. I think that that's the only reason she would accept responsibility. You think that she goes around accepting responsibility like an actual leader? Please. Why would she ever do that? Name one other time in history that Nancy Pelosi has accepted responsibility for an obvious Democrat screw up. Never. So if in fact she is accepting responsibility, she's trying to contrast herself with Donald Trump here. That's what I think her game plan was. I think she knew she was on camera, and I think that she purposefully said this, not realizing that it would backfire. I think that she sort of didn't appreciate how the landscape, how the cards would fall. But yeah, and this has utterly backfired on her because, she's basically saying the thing. It's her responsibility. So, but I don't think she ever intended for that to be shown in that way. So that's why when they had the first initial story that they planned on running in early January, and when she's filming this thing, was going to be running one way, and then it changed in a different direction. So, well, who's filming her now? Why she's being filmed by her own daughter? Why would her daughter be filming her here? Why? And if she did, and it was a mistake, why would it ever reach the public's light? Why would anyone find out about this? Unless that this was all orchestrated. And I think it was poorly orchestrated. It was like a real gaffe by Teen Nancy and the handlers around her as to how to best spin this. So she didn't anticipate that they ultimately were going to try and say that this was Trump's fault for not having the National Guard there, or that, she had a different angle that she was looking to play. That's what we're seeing here. So I think that's what we're seeing here. But there's a lot more that they added to the website today. Call to action. So Trump gives a history here, and this history has the left buggered, like irate. I'm just going to show you some of these people. Words fail at the brazenness of the dishonesty in this White House new January 6th timeline from lunatic Vox creator Aaron Rupar. But everything there is true. Everything there is true. Every word of it. All right. Call to action. President Trump invites patriotic Americans to Washington, D.C. on January 6th for a peaceful and historic protest against certifying the stolen 2020 election. He emphasizes standing up for election integrity while calling for peaceful demonstration. Hundreds of thousands respond to the call to show support. So this is the timeline as to how things happen. This is so that our children will know what happened, because they should know what happened. Then he had the Save America rally. President Trump delivers a powerful speech. At the Ellipse, President Trump speaks to hundreds of thousands of supporters, detailing evidence of election fraud and urging the crowd to march to the Capitol to peacefully and patriotically make their voices heard. He stresses the need to fight for the country through strength and determination, explicitly calling for a peaceful protest. The crowd responds with massive enthusiasm. Is this not true? Is anything of this not true? Tell me which part is not true. You might say it wasn't a powerful speech. I mean, that's subjective. So what part of here is the lie? Where's the lie here? Tell us when we get to the lie. You can do that, Paulie. Tell us when. How about how senile she sounded 5 years ago? Sounds and looks much worse today. Sounds and looks much worse today. You can tell this is why she's retiring, because, like, oh my God, I guess she doesn't want to, like, die in her chair like Dianne Feinstein did. But she looks like she's about 10 minutes behind Dianne. I have local shekels to throw in your hat. Fine, Andrew Branco will take them. He's a what? No, I'll take them. I'll take them. You can throw local shekels. I opened up chat. Chat is open. The chat is open there. I'm just not streaming there, but I have locals chat open. He does fine. He doesn't need your shekels. He does just fine, trust me. Patriots march to the Capitol. God bless. God bless Andrew Branco. Peaceful march. Patriots march to the Capitol. Following the president's speech, the massive crowd peacefully marches down Constitution Avenue to the Capitol. And by the way, this is no small thing. This is no small thing, because if they were Democrats, they would have been rioting the whole way through. And you know it. We've seen it. They would have been rioting the whole way through. That's the difference. No one ever talks about this. No one ever talks about this distinction. But they would have been like basically, spray painting stuff, tearing things down. It would have been a zoo. But no one talks about the fact that the entire march all the way down there was completely peaceful. So they marched down Constitution Avenue to the Capitol to protest the certification of the fraudulent election. The march is orderly and spirited, with flags, signs, and chants supporting President Trump. There you go. Capitol Police response escalates tensions. Capitol Police aggressively fire tear gas, flashbangs, and rubber munitions into crowds of peaceful protesters, injuring many and deliberately escalating tensions. Video evidence shows officers inexplicably removing barricades, opening Capitol doors, and even waving attendees inside the building, actions that facilitated entry while simultaneously deploying violent force against others. These inconsistent and provocative tactics turn the peaceful demonstration into chaos. This is the part that makes them very angry. The left has been freaking out about this particular section. You're basically saying the Capitol Police are responsible for the violence on the Capitol Police. The answer to that question is yes. Yes, the tactics employed by the Capitol Police invited further violence upon them. Yes. Don't tell me you don't understand that. You claim that all the time with respect to ICE agents today. Why are you saying that that's not possible for that to have happened? I don't think it's the sound flashing in and out. I think it's my voice. My voice is not its normal thing. My voice is, Just be grateful I'm not hacking a loogie on the microphone. Same way you should be grateful. People should be grateful that there was nothing, no violence at all on the way down. Just be happy. Take what's there and say, "Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you not snorting snorting boogers all over your own microphone. We're very proud. We're very impressed with you. This is not an easy feat when you feel fluids coming out of parts of your body that you don't really normally associate with having fluids." Are you grossed out yet? I know how to make myself as appealing as possible. But the point that I was making, I think, and that they're making is, the tactics they used here. Why are you firing tear gas and flashbangs and rubber munitions into people who are marching peacefully? That doesn't seem to make no sense. All you're doing is making people angry. Like they're just marching. Okay, it's Amy Klobuchar. I'm just doing her voice all night, okay? I'm just doing Amy Klobuchar. You can deal with it. You can deal with it. As events unfold, President Trump repeatedly calls for peace, tweeting support for law enforcement and releasing a video telling supporters to go home in peace. I remember that. While reiterating love for them and election concerns, he consistently promotes nonviolence despite the attack on attendees and emotions running high. He does. I don't remember seeing multiple. I remember seeing one. I remember seeing a video of him talking. My recollection is you can see him from basically the belt up, and he's telling the audience, "You need to go home now. You need to go home. I appreciate this, but you need to go home. What else did you want him to do? Did you expect him to go marching into the Capitol? What did you expect him to do? If he did, would the Capitol Police have even allowed him in? Probably. mm. Leaked footage captured by Nancy Pelosi's daughter shows the speaker in a rage during evacuation, furiously admitting, quote, "I take responsibility for the catastrophic failure to pre-position National Guard troops. Despite President Trump's prior authorization and offers of 10,000 troops that were rejected, Pelosi repeatedly demands to know why security was so inadequate on her watch, exposing the deliberate refusal to accept offered protection and the ignored or delayed requests for reinforcements." Unarmed Air Force veteran and Trump supporter Ashley Babbitt is fatally shot by Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd. By Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd without warning as she climbs through a broken window toward the speaker's lobby. No weapon was found on her and she posed no threat. I do think that there was a knife in her pocket, like a pocket knife that she had. So I don't, that part might be inaccurate. So it was definitely not in her hands. Her hands were definitely unarmed, so the fact that she had a pocket knife wasn't a justification for a cop to shoot her because the cop had no reason to think that she had a knife at the time that he murdered her. I shouldn't use the term murdered because, I don't want to ever mislead my audience. Murdered means an illegal killing. And I'm going to tell you right now that law of self-defense expert Andrew Branco, who is right now reaping in J.H. Schwalbeck's shekels, he is the preeminent authority when it comes to self-defense law. And he, I believe, has labeled that a lawful kill, given the nature and circumstance that it's probably a lawful kill. Probably. That's what I remember hearing him say, I believe. And I'll defer to him, as he has more familiarity with these circumstances, how the law has been applied. So I'll defer to him. And if it's a lawful killing, it's not murder, it's a kill. It might be, you can call it an evil kill. You can call it, and you should call it an evil kill because it was an evil kill. More evil on the behalf of Nancy Pelosi than Michael Byrd. Michael Byrd, I think the accolade that they gave to Michael Byrd was disgusting and gross. And I think the fact that they set up and authorized them to, put him in this sort of position is why she ended up getting killed. But there's a difference between something being evil and something being illegal. So if it's a lawful defense of others, and you see a whole mob coming at you, and you shoot the first person in that mob who's breaching through a new level, and it's, the same way you have a defense of, the question is, can you use lethal force? You can use lethal force if there's a subjective and objective threat of death or serious bodily harm. So, you sort of have to put yourself in the minute there. Same way when we're applying this with Kyle Rittenhouse, you sort of have to apply it with respect to a whole mob pounding on the door there, a glass door, well, a door with glass windows, and pounding on. She smashes through and starts climbing in. You're basically picturing that this mob is going to start now all piling in. So, and you don't know whether she's armed or not. You don't know whether, you don't know the people behind her are armed. So is this something that he's subjectively and objectively, it's a question of fact. The reality is he should have stood trial because it's still a question of fact. A skilled prosecutor could make the case that you're not in imminent fear of serious bodily harm. Now, if they're screaming, "Kill Mike Pence," while this is going on, well, in that case, because different things are happening in different parts of the Capitol. We shouldn't lose focus on that. One of the things that the left has enjoyed doing with respect to perverting the story of January 6th is to pretend that what was happening in the east side of the Capitol is the same thing as what was happening in the west side of the Capitol, and people had instantaneous, omniscient knowledge as to what was happening, and therefore had a legal justification to act accordingly, which is crap. It's not the way the law works. It's not the way reality works. It's not the way anything works, other than trying to sell a story, which is all that January 6th was ever about, was trying to sell a story. So the fact that, there are people who are pushing in, trying to, break through barricades on one side of the door is completely and wholly irrelevant to people being ushered in on another side. So, it's not the same action that's happening there. And just because there are some people there who definitely were screaming, "Hang Mike Pence," and screaming things that implied that they were seeking violence, even if you were there and you say, "Hey, they might have been screaming it, but I didn't take it that they were actually. I never had any objective to actually physically harm any member of Congress or Mike Pence." So the reality is that I think that a reasonable jury could come to a conclusion that this was a genuine threat. But it's a question of fact, which ultimately can only be adjudicated by a trier of fact, which means a jury, not even a judge. And that's why he should have stood trial. Now, given the nature of where this whole thing went down, I'll tell you right now that any jury in DC would have let him walk in a heartbeat. He would have walked. There would have been a unanimous not guilty verdict that would have come for him in 10 seconds. And I'm only saying that because I've been down to DC specifically about this issue. I saw trials and voir dire jury selection of people for J6 defendants. And when I went down there to cover the Michael Bannon trial, and I'll tell you right now that everyone in that jury pool has some sort of relationship to J6, to members of Congress or the media. They're all connected. They all have family members, and they're all TiVoing. I was there while the J6 Select Committee was airing their daily briefings, their daily hearings, and their videos. These people were literally TiVoing the J6 Select Committee hearings. Like they were swallowing it like gospel. So you cannot, because they felt personally affected by it. They felt as if, this mob is going to come to my house next and try and harm me. So they felt a certain way about it, which is unlike anyone who was not in DC, which was part of what made DC a completely unfair and biased location for any of these J6 defendants to actually stand trial, because all the residents of DC looked at themselves as victims of the siege of the Capitol. They looked at themselves as personal victims, like they themselves had been there, or their brother had been there, father, wife, that they felt as if they were there and they were in the line of fire. You can't put someone like that on a jury. And that's all the jury was comprised of. So now if Michael Byrd ever had to face trial for the murder for a prosecutor saying that he had murdered Ashley Babbitt, reality says there's zero chance he would have been convicted, not even a prayer. It would have been a 5-second deliberation. They would have walked out. They would have said, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Yep, okay. We came back, not guilty. You can put on the most compelling evidence in the world. You're not going to win that trial. So at the end of the day, now, does that mean that he actually was, in an objective perspective of how our law operates, was that a lawful kill? I don't know. I could see a reasonable jury coming to the conclusion that it was a lawful kill. You want to call it a murder because you're saying that in your opinion of the law, at least understand what the law is. And if you understand what the law is and you say that she was murdered, I get it. It's possible in some jurisdictions he would have been convicted of murder. If he had been flown out to her hometown and had to stand trial there, probably does get convicted, right? Or at least there's a decent chance of it if you put on a good case. So I shouldn't be so quick to dismiss the term murder. I shouldn't have been so quick for that. I'll strike that back. I'll strike that back. If the Monroe Doctrine applies to Venezuela, it should also apply to New York City, right? Oh, hell yes. Hell yes. Zoran is so out of his depth. He's so out of his depth. He's going to humiliate himself. Amy Klobuchar versus RFK Jr. epic rap battle. Okay, see, this is not cool. I'm feeling a certain way about this. I'm not doing RFK. This is not RFK. 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 Yeah, I'm not happy about saying it. I'm just saying, like, if you take yourself out of it, you take yourself out of like your feelings about the J6, the protesters, and you just try to look at it like really objectively, it's a very close call. It's not crazy to say that he would be found not guilty in a completely neutral place. In fact, if anything, you likely would lean towards saying, I think he probably would be. You could sort of understand he's trying to defend others, and there's a mob out here which is screaming, kill Mike Pence. So, and they're trying to break through the barricade. He's screaming. Everyone's screaming. He's screaming, don't come through, don't come through. And she climbs through. So, she doesn't see him, which is unfortunate. We can all mourn and should mourn for her death. I try to be fair as far as like, how we hold people accountable or not. And I think ascribing that, he's definitely a murderer, it's a harsh perspective. It's a harsh perspective. You find yourself in that situation there where the mob beating down and saying they want to kill people who are behind you. And it's your job to protect them. Like, what would you do? So Mike Pence refuses to act. Now, I just gave a whole defense of Michael Byrd, which I think that he probably would, in a fair trial, he would have a really good chance of succeeding. This part is where I disagree with Mike Pence very vehemently, and I disagree with most people on the law on this. Mike Pence refuses to act. Vice President Mike Pence, who had the opportunity to return disputed electoral slates to state legislatures for review and decertification under the United States Constitution, chooses not to exercise that power in an act of cowardice and sabotage. 100% true. Instead, Pence presides over the certification of contested electors, undermining President Trump's efforts to address documented fraud and ending any chance to correct the election steal. This is something that I think is the way our history books should teach it. Because, frankly, there's way more evidence, like a ton more evidence that, in fact, Pence was a traitor and a coward than that he was in the legal right with what he did. Now, just to remind you, for those of you who are too young to remember January 6th, maybe there's one or two of you out there, or those of you who may have been unfamiliar with the law and how that operated and what the scenario was. So I'll just remind you briefly that various states, like Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvanians, submitted an alternate slate of electors, not certified by the Secretary of State or the governor. The way it works on January 6th is that each state has a safe harbor date to return their slate of electors. So you have these every state has their own state law, which says by what date they're supposed to get it in. And they're supposed to basically send out, this is who the winner is. Now, the way they do that is the way that actually functions is whichever party gets the most votes, that party has their electors have a right to sign off who they want to vote for. And that's the actual vote tally, which determines who the next president is. So Democrats win, they turn to the Democrat slate of electors and they say, who do you want to vote for? And they all should be filling in there Donald Trump. And if the Republican wins, and if the Democrat wins the state, then they turn to the slate of chosen Democrat electors and they say, who do you want to vote for? That's why we had, you may recall, in 2016 and several elections prior there too, but it became most notorious in 2016. We had what was called the faithless electors, because basically you had Democrats begging Republican electors, please, please, please change your vote. Don't vote for Trump. And one or two of them actually succumbed to that pressure because they're wimps and wussies and losers and morons. But that is the official vote. Though, then what happens is after that slate of electors vote, then that document goes to the Secretary of State for the particular state and the governor of that state, and they stamp and certify that this is our vote for our state. So that's the way, and then they ship that off to Washington, and all that has to be done by date X. It varies by a few days from one place to another. Some places have December 6th, others have December 10th or December 12th. By December 6th, the latest I think is maybe December 16th. But they all get it out before January 1, well before January 1. So these different so what happened was these different contested states, the Republican slate that was not called upon by the state government to fill out a slate of electors decided to fill it out anyway, and then just send it in without having it stamped by the Secretary of State or the governor. Now, the role of the vice president in 2021 was to basically look at the electors that are presented to them and say, hey, I have here for the state of New York 34 votes for Biden, right? And you look at that slate, you look at the thing, and you say, and you count off 34 votes for Biden. I'm assuming that I made up the number 34. It sounds about right for what New York probably is. But, and that's, for the state of New Jersey, you have 11 votes for Biden. So that's and then the official tally essentially is who gets to 270 first. And if one of them gets to 270, that's it. That's the winner. And if neither of them get to 270, because you don't have slates of electors from certain states, or you can't tell who the slate of electors, what the proper slate of electors is, or there's some sort of dispute as to what's the appropriate slate of electors. So invalidating the slate of electors that is stamped off or purports to be stamped off by the state government, and neither side gets 270. What would happen in that circumstance is you would have a nationwide election being held where each state gets one vote. And they vote, who do we want to vote for? And how do they determine that? Well, they turn to the House of Representatives and they say, okay, you guys vote what you want. And the way it worked out happened, the demographics of the situation in 2021 was that there were more states which were Republican. I think it was 26, 24, 27, 23, something like that. So there was 27 states that had more Republicans than Democrats. So the expectation was that if they are if these slates of electors are invalidated, and now you have neither candidate getting 269 electoral votes, well, then it would turn back to the states. So this all turns into well, how does it get invalidated? And this is the key legal question, which is unlikely to ever be answered. Should have been answered in 2021, is unlikely to ever be answered. It would have been answered, but for Mike Pence being a coward who basically dresses in pink underwear and frolics in daisies in his free time while going around basically slamming anyone who does that. And this little coward basically said, oh, okay, I'm going to ignore this alternate slate of electors who have been sent in to me, and I'm just going to recognize the ones which have been signed off by the governors and pretend I never got this alternate slate of electors. So this is just wrong. This is just wrong. First of all, it's wrong. I don't even know how. I don't understand how it is. I have only 430 viewers. I don't understand how that alone sounds criminally wrong. But maybe part of the reason I only have 430 is because there's less than 200 likes. That's just not. I'm giving you gold here. I'm giving you like a concise breakdown as to how everything was working on January 6, 2021. I'm also hopefully giving you equal opportunity to laugh at my voice. Like what more can what more can you want? I don't even understand. Well, anyhow, so had he recognized those alternate slate of electors, it seems as if Trump would have been declared the winner. Does he have that authority? Because it is the president of the Senate, which is always the vice president, who basically is supposed to, according to the Constitution, supposed to tell Congress what the slate of electors says. And the dispute is his role to be sort of like one of these showgirls from The Price is Right and saying, it's a brand new car, and not to actually be passing judgment, but basically saying, waving at the votes. Look at these votes over here. That's what, was he like Vanna White pressing on the buttons that light up? Or is he supposed to be making a determination, sitting as a judge about the validity of these votes? That was really what the whole dispute was about with respect to, what should Mike Pence be doing here? Various attorneys from Trump camp were basically saying, no, he has that authority. He's the authority to invalidate it. Others read the Constitution to say he doesn't have that authority. It's weird to claim that that's the case, though. There are two reasons it's weird to make that claim. Two reasons that it's weird to make that claim. That on January 6, 2021, Mike Pence did not have that authority. There's two reasons to think it's weird. Number one is, why do you need him to do it? Why does the Constitution specifically say it's the president of the Senate supposed to do it? Why can't it be some clerk? Why can't it be any idiot? Why does it have to be the president of the Senate? The fact that you're choosing the president of the Senate implies that there's some sort of thought that you're expecting is going to go into this from a responsible individual. So you turn to the second in command and you say, hey, what does it say? What do we have here? So that implies, you would think, from the fact that the authors of the Constitution said, hey, this is the role that's reserved for the president of the Senate, implies that there's supposed to be some sort of competence that's displayed, not sitting there like Vanna White in a pretty dress that I'm sure Mike Pence likes to wear, and, going around touching the lit up buttons so that they turn over. So that being the case, if he's making a determination, in that case, he has authority to say, there's no way to know which of these electors is actually accurate. And he could have done that and should have, given all the questions that were surrounding so many of these shaky, ridiculous elections, with the mail-in ballots and the ballot harvesting and crazy fluctuations about vote totals and things stopping in the middle of the night and water main breaks and Ruby Freeman and all this other stuff going on there. All these different questions that we have, testimony about pristine ballots coming in the tens of thousands that are all 100% for Joe Biden. I mean, so many different things. You have a legal case between Texas versus Pennsylvania. You're going to sit here and tell me that this is a secure election, that you were confident, and that these are actual numbers. So you see Michigan, that all of a sudden in the middle of the night, you see it trending like this, where Trump's on top, and then also middle of the night, whoop, and then starts going. You just see like a dump of votes for Biden, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's totally what happened. So, but with all these shaky things, now you're going to tell me, well, the governor says that's what it says, so this is why I'm trusting it. It's retarded. And I think that if you read the Constitution, it's pretty clear that he did have that authority. In fact, I still think he has that authority even today. But the next sign that even the left recognized that he had that authority, they actually tipped their own hand. Because after January 6, 2021, Congress went out and passed a new law saying the vice president has no authority to decide which electors are valid, which ones are invalid. Well, if that was always the law, you don't need to write that law. You wouldn't need to write it. That's like saying you're writing a law that air is free. Air is already free. I don't need Congress to say it. So if I don't need Congress to pass a law telling me that, people are free to choose whatever hairstyle they want to have. So would Congress write a law tomorrow? Anyone who wants to grow a mohawk and has the capacity to do so is hereby permitted to do so? Of course not. It's already the law. You write it if you're changing the law. You're changing what the status quo is. That's why you're restricting some people who are doing things that you want to stop them from doing something that you don't want them to do. Well, if Congress is writing the law, that's an inherent admission that before they write that law, the law is not like that. They recognize that that's not what the law is saying. So when Congress passed that law, it was an admission that on January 6, 2021, Mike Pence did have authority to make a decision. He had the full legal right to tell Congress, I got competing slate selectors. I don't know who's right here. I don't know which slate to take from Pennsylvania. I don't know which slate to take from Georgia, from Michigan, on and on. He had that right. He had that authority. And Congress admitted it when they passed a law that purported to say going forward in the future, no vice president will have that power. Well, that means every vice president before then did have that power, including Mike Pence on January 6, 2021. The other thing you can point out is this is a constitutional amendment. This is 12th Amendment. It's spelling out exactly how things function. So even if Congress passes this law, they have no right to affect the Constitution. So the Constitution says whatever it says. If, in fact, the Constitution gives that authority to the vice president, and Congress has no ability to change that. They have no ability, same way they don't have ability to say that I'm going to strike down or restrict what the 14th Amendment says. Same way they don't have the ability to take away your guns. Unless it's comporting with what's already in the Constitution. We see gun restriction laws, unfortunately, but the Supreme Court says, okay, this type of thing is not violating the Constitution. It's not purporting to ignore what's written in the Constitution. So that's where the Supreme Court is sanctioning it as fitting within the terms of the Constitution based on one form of reading or another. But when Congress goes out and says, hey, we're rewriting the 12th Amendment, or we're saying that the vice president doesn't have this power. If, in fact, the Constitution says he does have that power, your law that purports to say, that claims to say he no longer has that power is crap. It's meaningless. You might as well start trying to write laws as to, what type of underwear people can wear in Thailand. You have no authority there. You have no authority over Thailand. You have no authority to change what's an amendment in the Constitution. If you have no authority, the statute you just passed here is meaningless. So they tried passing a law. I'm simply of the opinion, and to me it seems legally sound to say that that law has no meaning. Now, we're not going to know whether that law has meaning unless someday in the future there's a situation where a vice president says, I don't care about your stupid law. The Constitution says I have this power and I'm going to wield that power. And then the vice president would be taken to court and ultimately probably decided by the Supreme Court where they would interpret and say, well, what does that amendment mean? Is that likely to happen? No, it's much less likely to happen because Congress passed this law. And vice presidents tend to be wusses. I don't know about J.D. Vance. Hopefully J.D. Vance doesn't have to find himself in that scenario. Because he'll just win in a landslide. But the point that I'm getting at here is Mike Pence did refuse to act, and that's because he basically has you know what this is? This is what he has. This is what he has. Right there. That's what he's got. Tiny little minerals. I'm never wearing those earbuds again. Never wearing those earbuds again. Anyway, let's move forward with what Trump put on his website today. After law enforcement clears the Capitol, Congress reconvenes late that night and certifies Joe Biden's electoral votes from battleground states marred by massive mail-in ballot fraud, hidden suitcases of ballots, exploding water pipes, voting machine irregularities, and unprecedented pandemic-era rule changes that bypass state legislatures. 2020 is considered the greatest election theft in U.S. history, with widespread fraud deliberately ignored by courts, officials, and the media. Well said. Well said. Yeah, it's true. Despite his explicit calls for peaceful protests, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms collude to ban President Trump, citing incitement in a blatant act of election interference. JP Morgan, Bank of America, Capital One, and other major financial institutions debank President Trump and his family, closing accounts, freezing funds, and denying services in a ruthless campaign of financial persecution to destroy them politically and economically. Legacy media suppresses evidence of fraud. I was unaware. I'd forgotten that he'd been debanked. He and his family have been debanked. It's crazy. How much more is there? Oh, okay. The Biden DOJ launches a coordinated nationwide dragnet, arresting over 1,500 January 6 attendees in pre-dawn raids, many for mere trespassing or parading, dozens of them being like old ladies. Hundreds held as political prisoners for years in harsh conditions, denied speedy trials, and given lengthy sentences in what is considered an unprecedented and diabolical weaponization of federal law enforcement against Trump supporters. At least 5 J6 defendants took their own life while facing prosecution. Horrible. Horrible. Speaker Pelosi's the partisan witch hunt, January 6th Select Committee exposed. Speaker Pelosi's handpicked January 6th Select Committee, stacked with anti-Trump Democrats and two rhinos, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who we could now call crying Adam Kinzinger, spent over 3 years and nearly $20 million. That's how you know this wasn't written by Trump, because it doesn't say, loser Cheney and crying Adam Kinzinger, because that's what it would say if Trump wrote this. Spent over 3 years and nearly $20 million in taxpayer funds on propaganda spectacle to demonize President Trump and his supporters. Coached witnesses like Cassidy Hutchinson, leading to calls for perjury and witness tampering investigations against them, while withholding exculpatory evidence, deleting encrypted files, and ignoring security failures. All true. All true. Every word of it. Every word. Every word. I could defend every part of this. The only part I can't defend is that one line where they said something that I was like, I'm not sure that's true. I don't remember there being multiple tweets from Trump telling them to go home. I don't remember that. I could be mistaken, but I don't remember that. But they're crying that none of this is true. Every word of this is true. Biden prosecutors bring multiple indictments against Trump over his legal election challenges. This is the next section. Weaponized prosecutions target President Trump. FBI agents conduct an unprecedented raid on his Mar-a-Lago home, including searching through First Lady Melania Trump's private wardrobe and personal belongings. You got to wonder why they were there, right? I don't think you need to wonder. They targeted his loyal lawyers, aides, and associates with baseless charges, threatening decades-long prison sentences to pressure them into flipping with false testimony against him. FBI entrapment operation exposed. Subsequent investigations, congressional testimony, DOJ admissions, and whistleblowers confirmed the FBI had at least 26 and likely dozens more confidential informants and assets embedded in the January 6th crowd. Figures like Ray Epps, who was caught on video repeatedly urging people to go into the Capitol, were charged only minimally. Democrats successfully flipped the narrative to brand peaceful protesters as insurrectionists while waging the true insurrection against the legitimate election. I'm loving this. I am loving this. What I love is at least the next 3 years, this is what the story is going to be. And it should be. Finally getting some truth. Lawfare fails, President Trump prevails, despite relentless deep state efforts to imprison, bankrupt, and assassinate him, all designed to sabotage his political comeback through fabricated indictments, invasive raids, and rigged show trials. President Trump emerges triumphant, fueled by unbreakable resolve, the fierce loyalty of his courageous family, team, and patriotic Americans, and God's unmistakable grace. He delivers a landslide 2024 victory and claims the White House, the greatest comeback in American history. maybe he wrote the last section there. Maybe he wrote the last section. That's possible. Hey, Jim tells you rated me. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Much obliged to you, brother. It's been too long since I see you. I look forward to hanging out with you on Thursday. So that was the update there. I'm at now in 6 minutes in. I'm at January 6th into the January 6th coverage. And I got a lot more. Here's the left freaking out. I showed you Aaron Rupar being so outraged.
And just a few minutes ago on whitehouse.gov, the official website of the White House and the executive branch of this government, posting an entire timeline in which they are quite explicit in putting blame on Democrats and others for the events that transpired on January 6th.
And telling the truth. They're pretty explicit in making sure that the truth is finally told.
And the prosecutions that followed. There are references to the, quote, mass arrests of patriotic protesters. There's a reference to the greatest election theft in U.S. history. Mike Pence's, quote, act of cowardice and sabotage.
That should be remembered for all time.
The website goes on to say the Democrats masterfully reversed reality after January 6th, branding peaceful patriotic protesters as insurrectionists and framing the event as a violent coup attempt orchestrated by Trump, despite no evidence of armed rebellion or intent to overthrow the government. My words, to be clear, there were more than a dozen individuals who were charged and convicted for seditious conspiracy. There's another passage on the website in which it says, quote, it was the Democrats who staged the real insurrection by certifying a fraud-ridden election, ignoring widespread irregularities, and weaponizing federal agencies to hunt down dissenters. Again, that is whitehouse.gov, the official page of the White House, with a new website here on this January 6th.
It's a new web page, same website, new page, and on their website. Even Boomer Me knows that. Speaking of cowards, let's look at Jim Thune here. Still have cowards in the GOP today.
Do you think that the White House on their website said put blame in part on Capitol Police for the violence that happened on January 6th 5 years ago? I'm curious whether or not.
By the way, I met this man here. That is Senator. Why am I drawing? I met him at the inauguration. He was at the inaugural ball, and he's very short. Do you think that, in case you couldn't hear the question, he was asked, on the website, it says, the Capitol Police are partly to blame for inciting the uprising, turning a peaceful protest into a riot. Do you think that that's true? What do you think this coward's going to say? What do you think this coward's going to say? I'll let you mull that over for a moment while I catch up here. Happy Jim tells you, remember for 13 months saying Happy New Year. I too am looking forward to Third Person Thursday with Joe and Jim. Good. Excellent. You're officially booked. It's Langford from Oklahoma. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on his name. But that's correct. That is this is short little Langford.
I haven't seen what they put on their website, but the Capitol Police do a great job around here.
Coward.
This Friday is Law Enforcement Day, and we will honor and express our appreciation and gratitude to the men and women who serve in law enforcement across this country, including the Capitol Police, who protect this building on a daily basis.
I haven't seen it. I don't know. Well, why don't you answer the question now? Do you think that they were to blame? Well, you could say some of their tactics could have been better thought out. That would be a way to answer it. It's really that easy, but he's too much of a coward. So he's just going to do the politician dance of, I'm not giving you a real answer to that question. That's all he's doing there. So today, we got to see a Patriot March in D.C. Pardoned J6 heroes marching in D.C. for the first time in 5 years since they were arrested for this. You're not going to see that. You should need to see it. And this should be a little lower because it's very loud.
Americans spent thousands of days behind bars, and our government, the U.S. Department of Justice, owes the American people, every one of our families that were terrorized, restitution. This is a statement. They need to make a statement showing that the American people will not be robbed and taken and kidnapped from our homes, persecuted through a two-tier justice system without the American people having to pay the price. We paid the price for our country, the restitution for years of solitary confinement, to bring it to the justice of the murderers of January 6th, Michael Byrd, Lila Morris. That's what restitution means to us. Not just financial payouts, but justice. The prosecutors fired.
So that was from their march earlier today. But there was some violence. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, first, before we get there, his representative, Tom Suozzi, confronting them. Democrat Tom Suozzi.
Pretty abusive. What did it feel like that to pay for the sins that you and all these traitors have done to our country? God bless you. What did it feel like the power of the American people surrounding you? We the people, our Constitution, our government, pushing against tyrants and treasonous traitors like
How do you feel about beating a police officer? How do you feel about tasing a police officer? How do you feel about committing crime? How do you?
Why would you be so stupid as to assume that any of them tased the police officer? Look, I'm not for. I think no violence against the police, no violence at all, was justifiable by the J6 protesters. So I'm not defending it. But whatever they had done, the sentence that they got was purposefully, it was violation of the 8th Amendment. It was cruel and unusual, far exceeding what anyone who ever assaulted a police officer was facing, which is ridiculous. So they're treating them as if it's an insurrection while they were too afraid to actually charge with insurrection because they knew that legally it wasn't an insurrection, but they still treated them as if it was an insurrection. You cannot punish someone for a crime that you're too afraid to charge them with, and that's essentially what they were doing, in particular to the violent ones, but really to everyone.
How do you feel about the people? How do you feel about the people that were part of that committed more crimes
down into the city?
The American people.
While you're serving in Congress, buying stock.
Serve yourself, you self-righteous prick!
Sell out! Fucking fraud!
You're a fucking.
Go to work! Go to work! Go to your job!
What does that mean?
You swore no to the Constitution.
Next time you won't be so nice.
What does that mean? Exactly
What does that mean?
1776.
What does that mean?
Our founding fathers would have dealt with you very differently.
So what does that mean?
We were very reserved
Tell me
on
what it means.
January 6th. We were very reserved on January 6th.
Reserved?
Yes, very reserved. Very reserved and respectful.
He has nothing to say to that because it's true what he's saying. it would have been very different a couple hundred years ago.
Get the fuck out of here.
You're making the stock market, you piece of fucking fraud. Nancy Pelosi, fucking traitor.
So there you go. There you go. That's your first confrontation. But some of the confrontations got physical, unfortunately. But it is reality.
Satan, we rebuke you, Satan, in the name of Christ. In the name of Christ, we rebuke you.
This lunatic decides. One of the things that leftist protesters love doing is they love creating noise. That is not free speech. That's in no way, shape, or form free speech. I remember at the JC when I was covering the Bannon trial, and he would come out, and the press would talk to him. There was this lefty loony who would basically bring a whistle with him and just be blowing it at the top of his lungs. That's not free speech. That's a heckler's veto. He's trying to just like silence free speech. It's an attempt. It's actually the most anti-free speech thing you can do, because it's like, I don't want to let you engage in free speech. If you have something to say it.
Satan, we rebuke you, Satan. We rebuke you, you demon. You fucking demon.
Rebuke you, you filthy demon. Wow, look at this thumb. I guess the thumb, the nail looks, jeez.
You evil fucking demon.
That's an assault.
We rebuke you in the name of Christ, you fucking demon! Jesus is king! Jesus is king! Jesus is king! Jesus is king! Jesus is king!
Wow. Wow.
Fuck you, bitch!
Fuck off, motherfuckers! Crazy, fuck off, motherfuckers!
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Get out!
Get out!
Get out!
Get out! You nasty cunt!
Should have taken her megaphone and just smashed it.
Fuck you!
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So there you go. There's another clip of her being arrested I have here for you. I think this was it. That wasn't it. Where were you? This was it. This is when she was first arrested.
Yes, old lady, we got it all on camera with her bullhorn. You're under arrest, girl. Yeah, baby. Thank you, Secret Service. Thank you for your service. Have a nice life. Feel good? We rebuke you, Satan. Back up.
We rebuke you, Satan. I think that's funny.
Back up, guys. Back up. Back up. Everyone back up. USA! 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 USA!
That's not the point. It's the humiliation of this moment is worth it. I don't care if she's out 30 minutes later. It's the humiliation of this moment.
That lady assaulted me first.
Get out of the way.
Get out of the way. By pulling my
Put her with Maduro. Put her with Maduro. Back up. Back up. Everybody go back. Everybody over here. Get back. Everybody back up, please. Back up. Everybody, I told you multiple times. Back up. Back up.
Anyhow, so that was her arrest. We got enough of that. We got enough of that. You know what Mike Pence had to say today? I didn't even read this yet. I'm going to read it with you for the first time. I saw he had a statement today, so I was like, let's hear what this doofus has to say. On this 5th anniversary of January 6th, I finally realized what a dork I look like with a fly on my head throughout my debate with Kamala Harris. I want to pass along remarks I made about that fateful day at the JFK Profile and Courage Award ceremony last year. I first spoke about the men and women. How long is this idiocy? 14 minutes. 14 minutes. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to make it through this. Or maybe that was his remarks. I first spoke about the men and women in uniform, the true heroes that day. The true heroes were the patriots. How I will always believe that by God's grace, I did my duty to see that peaceful transfer of power under the Constitution. I express my heartfelt gratitude to the countless Americans of every background who have reached out with a word of encouragement these past 5 years. You're scum. January 6th was a tragic day. No, it wasn't. It was tragic what you did. But it became a triumph of freedom when, after Capitol Police quelled the violence, leaders in both chambers and both political parties reconvened by the very same day and finished democracy's work on the Constitution. You are an embarrassment. Constitution is common ground which we stand. No, they don't stand for the Constitution, doofus. In these divided times, I believe more than ever that on that common ground we will forge a boundless future together, and America's best days are yet to come. You're a doofus. Thank God your political career is over. Idiot. You're trying to cloak yourself in the Constitution to mask your cowardice. Scum. Here's Nancy Pelosi looking like they dug her up from a grave and talking about January 6th.
I could never have had the idea that a president of the United States would incite an insurrection.
He didn't. That's why he was never charged with it.
On the Capitol of the United States, the symbol of democracy throughout the world.
It's not a symbol of democracy. It's a symbol of constitutional governance. You need to stop at that. You destroyed whatever democracy we may have had in 2020 for your role in usurping an actual election result.
On the Constitution of the United States, which he took, and we all took an oath to uphold. On the Congress of the United States, who that day had the congressional responsibility to accept the results, to certify the results of the election.
Not fraudulent results. He was actually doing his duty to ensure that the results were accurate, which you were doing everything you could to mask their accuracy. So he was the only one who was standing up for it. You and your ilk and enabled by cowards like Mike Pence, decided to try and kibosh democracy. Because real democracy demands that we have transparency in the integrity of our elections, even if there was integrity in elections, which few sane people actually believe. But there are few. The failure by you and those of you who have been in power for decades and decades to ensure that there would be transparency so that we could have confidence, rather than you pulling some sort of Maduro type of election scam where things look a certain way throughout the night and then everything stops and then, oh, the result is here. And guess what? Guess what? We declare a winner, which is exactly what Maduro did. Maduro was losing by 5 million votes, it was like 7 million to 2 million. And the next thing you know, he won. That's what you did with Biden on obviously a lesser scale. And you're sitting here saying that it's his duty to certify your lunatic results. You were the one who basically, whatever shred of democracy exists in our nation was dismantled by the Democratic Party in November of 2020.
The list goes on and on. And today, that president who incited that insurrection
wasn't incited, never charged with incitement. You know it wasn't incitement. You're purposefully gaslighting here.
continues to lie about what happened that day.
You're lying. We have video of you taking responsibility.
On my way over here, I saw on TV that he was claiming that we did not ask for the National Guard.
He wasn't claiming. He was showing video of you actually saying that you should have been asking for them.
I thank Representative Hinziger and as well as Elaine Loria for setting the record straight and other testimony that
for the lies that they helped us gaslight.
You've heard here. For over 3 hours, we begged him to send the National Guard.
Lie.
Never did it.
Where's the evidence of that? Why aren't there text messages of that? Why is there no documentation of that?
He took joy in
They got the National Guard out there in record time. In record time, considering the fact that you refused to deploy them, doofus.
Not doing it, was savoring that. And right now, he was saying on TV today, I wanted to send it, they just wouldn't do it. His own Secretary of Defense, acting Secretary of Defense, testified under oath against what the president is saying today. Maybe not in public, but
what are you talking about?
Under oath. God forbid that they ever put this president under oath. His people know never to do that because who knows what would happen. But what he's saying
we don't put you under oath either, because who knows what would happen. Where the hell have you ever been under oath?
Today, still lying about it, is an insult to the American people. Good thinking people in our country, and I believe in the
doofuses who swallow whatever swill you throw out at them.
The goodness of the American people. Believing in their goodness is what gives us hope that we can move on from this even stronger. His lies that he continues to tell are an insult. The courage of our founders, the beautiful vision they had of this country. And they
disgusting, deplorable woman. Awful. We should all raise a toast when her reign ends on January 3rd, 2027. Again, here is the video of her lie, of which just exposes everything she just said is crap. This is the video that Trump shared.
We have responsibility, Terry.
Yeah.
We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural.
The head of the National Guard said that she refused to authorize over and over and over again. He called her for like an hour. This lying bitch.
Stuff should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
You didn't let them.
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how.
See, that's why she's answering. This is how you know it's staged, because she's giving this stupid answer. Why is she giving a stupid answer to what's obviously a rhetorical question?
They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more. We have.
So there you go. There you go. This is defamation. It's not true. So, how do Democrats celebrate January 6th? Do they care about Thanksgiving? No. Thanksgiving is when is celebrating the evil white colonialists. Do they shun July 4th because we've stolen Native American land? They recoil in horror at any sort of religious holiday. barely remember Memorial Day. But January 6th, the holiest of holy days, out comes the Democrats from Congress. With their stupid little lanterns. Shameful. They're coming from all directions. This is so scripted. So scripted. Coming from different directions, as if this is something that's organic. Pathetic. I got more of this idiocy. Where was it? Where was it? Look at these idiots here.
Guide her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America.
They're singing this because they don't know the national anthem. That's my guess.
My home, sweet home. God bless America. My home.
Okay, so there you go. All the primary ones have to take front and center. Nancy Pelosi front and center, Chuck Schumer front and center, Hakeem Jeffries front and center, Al Green front and center. They all got to get their primo spot here for their stupid little the photo op moment. Stupid Maxine Waters with her ridiculous hair. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. All the powerful people in the front row.
Oh, sweet home.
Disgusting. Yes, it's a very organic seating chart. Oh, is Al Green one of them who's supposed to be losing his spot? Oh, that's a shame. That's tragic. The good news is, no, they don't. No, they don't. You'll see it. You'll see it. You'll see it. So that was January 6th, 2026. I told you we're going to spend considerable time on that. Told you I need to spend considerable time there. All right. I also mentioned at the start of the show tonight that I had like a whole bunch of really funny videos to share with you. This is like the least funny one out of all of them, but I need to share it with you because someone was inspired by my video, my episode of Viewers Discretion, where I said that Trump is Batman. That's what I was saying on Sunday night. That dude is Batman, pulling out Maduro like it's some accountant from Hong Kong. So I need to share this with you. I didn't make this. He's freaking Batman. Trump man begins. Trump man begins. He's freaking Batman. He is freaking Batman. All right. And Uz, to answer your question, I haven't covered the Hilton thing. I planned on getting there as one of my side story things. I don't know if I'm going to get there because it's looking scant on the third hour happening. It's looking scant, and that was definitely something I plan on throwing in the third hour. What? All right. So this is how desperate the left is. This is how desperate the left is to try and find any way to scale back the growing love for Maduro, for Trump in the wake of him capturing Maduro. This is how desperate CNN is. This is hilarious.
The U.S. is alleging that Maduro, again, is a drug trafficker, among other charges, something that will ultimately be decided by jurors. Here's what we know about the illicit drug trade out of Venezuela. The first drug trafficking accusations came against Nicolás Maduro back in 2020 during the first Trump administration. And at the time, the former Attorney General, Bill Barr, said the Venezuelan government facilitated the transport of up to 250 tons of cocaine annually.
That's what we knew about back then.
Experts believe that most of that cocaine, though, is bound for Europe, not the United States.
Why are you assuming that he was talking about drugs, that cocaine that went elsewhere? Why would you assume that? That's a pretty weird assumption.
And also, for context, that total falls far, far short of what we see in many other countries. For instance, according to U.S. data, Guatemala, a much smaller nation, saw 1,400 plus metric tons pass through 2018 alone.
How is this any sort of exoneration for Maduro?
Which we know did wind up flowing into the United States.
Okay.
Cocaine is obviously dangerous and legal.
Is that, first and foremost, is that state sponsored in Guatemala? If so, we should have a serious talk with the leader of Guatemala. And so does that mean it's like, oh, he's only shipped in 250 tons per year? Going back to 2008, it came up in 2020, but we actually if you read the indictment, they go back even earlier than 2008. Goes back to like 1998, 1999. This guy's been shipping. He's been part of a drug cartel for the last 25 years. Stupid.
Lethal. It is not, though, the drug causing most overdose deaths in the United States. That dubious distinction belongs, of course, to fentanyl. In 2024, the CDC says that drug killed more than 48,000 people here in the United States.
So desperate.
More than half the total number of overdose deaths nationwide that year. Cocaine accounted for just about 22,000 deaths. And despite claims by the Trump administration that Maduro's capture will impede the flow of fentanyl, the DA's own assessment for 2025 doesn't even list Venezuela as a foreign illicit drug actor. Instead, it cites trafficking from Mexico, China, Colombia, and India as well. Fentanyl is almost entirely produced in Mexico using chemicals that come from China, according to U.S. authorities. How all this shakes out in the courtroom, we'll see what evidence the U.S. presents.
Try to portray Maduro as if he's not that bad. He's not that bad. Why are you so worried about it? It's only 250 tons a year. Well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad for the last 20 years. It's not that bad. Thousands of people. Only 22,000 murdered. Only 22. Why are you getting so upset about 22,000 murders from this guy? Why are you getting such outrage? It's so desperate. It's so desperate. They're trying to trivialize this win. They're trying to trivialize this win. That's that doofus. Harry Enton has to recognize that that's not the way Americans are seeing it.
About what the president's done in Venezuela? Let me be very clear. There is no rift in the Republican Party. Yes, there are some folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie who are quite skeptical of this. They are very much in the minority. What are we talking about here? Well, why don't we just talk the GOP on the U.S. military ousting Maduro? Ipsos, 65% support, 6% opposed. How about the Washington Post poll? 74% support, just 10% opposed. If you look among 2024 Trump supporters, we're talking about 80% support. The vast, vast majority of Republicans are with Donald Trump on this issue. Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene are very much in the minority. Very few Republicans are with him.
You say they're with him on this issue. Do you even need those words, this issue?
No, I don't need the words "this issue."
See how he sets up the next. That's Chris. You need to set the next card by basically saying, but it's not just this issue. Is it, Harry?
Because the bottom line is this: Donald Trump has had an iron grip on that Republican base.
It's like Harry Enton. It's almost like he's got the next thing lined up there, and magically Chris Berman, has asked him this question, and Harry, or maybe it's a good faith question. And Harry is like, Harry is you're a wizard, Harry Enton. You're a wizard. How you have that next poll ready to go to answer his question. You're a wizard, Harry Enton.
For a long period of time, and it is the same iron grip that he had 6 months ago. I know every so often people are trying to say, oh, I spot these little rifts in the Republican base. They're finally starting to break. They're starting to break from Donald Trump. It ain't happening, at least when it comes to the approval rating. Look at this, 84% 6 months ago. 85% now. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know 85% and 84% are basically the same number. In fact, 85% is 1 point higher than 84%. Show me.
You don't have to be a mathematical whiz, but I'll walk you through the mathematics. Let me walk you through the mathematics about the difference between 84 and 85. You don't have to be a whiz, but I can tell you, I got this one nailed down. Let me tell you something. Secretary Rubio, he's awesome. He's gotten so good at this. Listen to this guy.
You're wrong in your question.
Being asked about what's your response? Yesterday, I was telling you how the UN was reacting in horror at what Trump did with Maduro because they're literally pissing down their own legs. It's like there's just like you could see a stream of yellow going down their legs after they see what Trump and America were able to do to Venezuela, and it's like literally you can smell you can smell the warm fluid flooding their pants.
Number one, Venezuela is a major source, and the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about.
Thank you. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They have no idea. Well, they know what they're talking about. They just lie all the time.
Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about 1.5 years ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolás Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice. You're wrong in your question.
I love him basically saying, to hell with the UN. No one gives a damn what they're saying. They're full of crap. They are. They are. And it's not just the GOP, which is so excited by this whole Maduro thing. You're seeing Democrats start to turn. You're seeing Democrats start to turn. And this is why the Democrat leadership doesn't know what to do, because they're bleeding support. Bleeding support. Check out this woman.
Never thought.
I got 2 different testimonials for you.
This is a video that I never thought I would make. I am a lifelong Democrat who has worked in 2 White Houses for 2 Democratic presidents. I'm the kind of Democrat who wishes that she lived in New York City so that she could have voted for Mayor Mamdani.
So I'm an airhead. Who loves political power.
And I made this video, I'm making this video because I have been completely out of my mind with disappointment over the misinformation that fellow Democrats and Democratic politicians have been posting over the last 24 hours about Venezuela. And so what you're about to see is a video that Jason...
You can tell from the way she says Venezuela that she takes this personally.
Kander, the former Secretary of State of Missouri, posted earlier this morning where he incorrectly claimed that Maria Corina Machado won the 2024 presidential election in Venezuela. And this is important because what it should tell you is that Democrats are out there speaking on issues that they don't know anything about and that they couldn't even take 2 seconds to Google and fact check. right? He goes on to do other things in the video, like imply that Maria Corina is dumb for dedicating her Nobel Peace Prize to President Trump, as if she's not a chess player, as if she doesn't know exactly what she was doing. But he's not the only one, right? It's also Rubén Gallego claiming that we're at war, telling all of his followers as a veteran that we're at war, which is so reckless, because we're not at war. Where is the war? Who is the war with, right? It is all the Democrats going out and complaining about the congressional oversight. I understand. I wish that he had sought congressional approval for this, right? Like, of course I do. But if you're going to talk about that, then I also hope that you're going to talk about President Obama, who I worked for at the time, bombing Libya for 7 months without congressional approval, right? We can't, as Democrats, pick and choose who we want to support in this world.
Like, you have your head so buried up your butt that you don't realize this. You're first coming to this realization now.
We either want freedom for everyone or we want it for no one. So here's the video. And I'm going to keep on posting misinformation from Democrats on this issue, because I think it's really important to call out misinformation, whether it's coming from a Democrat or a Republican.
So in 2024, this woman named Ms. Machado, she won the presidential election there. She's the leader of the opposition. She actually won the election, but Maduro refused to leave power. Now, Maduro has a vice president, a woman named Ms. Rodriguez. Ms. Rodriguez comes from the Chavez regime. She's a Maduro loyalist, right? But she has been, involved in the energy sector, and, they consider her to be somebody who understands the economics of the energy sector, which is to say, she, instead of favoring a corrupt kind of socialism, she favors a corrupt kind of laissez-faire capitalism. The short version is, instead of it going to the person who won the presidential election but couldn't take office because Maduro refused to leave, a woman who, by the way, won the Nobel Peace Prize and then dedicated her Nobel Peace Prize to Trump.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's the first one I wanted to share with you. Here's another Democrat who is sick of the Democrats.
The reason I am so critical of the Democratic Party right now is because I literally just left it, just like a lot of other people. I was a bleeding heart liberal like all of you. I mean, blue hair and everything. I mean, believe me, I have plenty of pictures proving that I was all in. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said there is no way in hell I will ever vote for Donald Trump. But let me tell you what changed my mind. The big moment for me was when the left started trying to push this like Nazi, Hitler, fascism narrative that they're trying to push right now. Like, what y'all actually did is make
Right now, they've been pushing it for 6 years, honey.
a lot of us really go research Trump even harder. And we started to realize that a lot of things that you guys had shown us about Trump and things that he had said were taken way out of context. A lot of us started noticing a pattern where you guys were showing us like little 10-second clips of a 10-minute conversation that did not reflect the entirety of that conversation at all. So that was number one. And then around Thanksgiving, all of a sudden you guys are telling us that it would be better for us to sit at home and spend the holidays with no one than it would be to go home to your family who voted for Trump. When I heard that, I was like, okay, now y'all are wildin', because you cannot tell me that it is better for your mental health to sit at home alone than it is to go and spend time with your friends and family. Y'all had actual therapists getting on TV and telling you guys this. And the sad thing is that it would have been better for them to encourage you to do something like find other people that believe the same as you to spend the holidays with, but they didn't. They told you to stay in your home and spend the holidays with no one. When that happened, I was like, okay.
Soak in your misery. Soak in it. Soak in it. Bask in your hatred and anger of all things Donald Trump and MAGA related. Bask in it. Spend that day basking in your anger and misery.
Okay, I got to give this party a second look because something is not right here. But honestly, if you want to know the truth, what really did it for me is realizing how freaking depressed I was when I was functioning as a liberal. Liberalism will literally make you hate yourself. It will make you hate your family.
Crush your soul. That's what it's supposed to do. It crushes your soul. That's what socialism does. It crushes your soul.
It will make you hate your friends. It will make you hate everything about the world. And I'm not saying that you should just be ignorant to everything that is going on in the world, but the way that the left chooses to internalize everything that is going on in the world is detrimental to their mental health. And this is why people try to tell you that empathy is dangerous. But even that you want to take out of context. Empathy itself is a great quality to have.
Which just actually strikes a question, which is, I think we should start recognizing liberalism as an actual disease that people catch from legacy media. That leftism is a disease. Socialism is a disease. They're diseased. That's they're afflicted. Some have more, we jokingly refer to Trump derangement syndrome, but it's really leftism syndrome because it's not about Trump ultimately. They'll do the same thing with Vance. You're hearing about TDS now. Trust me, you'll be seeing VDS soon. So yeah, I think that we need to really start making it like talking about them as if we pity them. Like, oh wow, I'm so sorry for you. That's the proper way to approach it. Like, embarrass them about the fact that they're actually so affected. Like, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry that you feel this way about January 6th. I'm sorry. Like, when you approach it with that perspective, it's humiliating. You make it humiliating for them to be socialists. Make it humiliating for them to come up with their wackiness. Where instead of just pity them. And it's the most crippling thing in the world. You could throw in a little, joke here and there, but yeah. It's the most, because, wow, they must be a really miserable person. It's awful for you. And on the late great Ricky Henderson Thursday should be Ricky Thursdays, not Third Person Thursday. The Third Person Thursday has a better ring. So Ricky was great in every way possible. Personality, player, everything about Ricky Henderson was great. That man had natural greatness. A lot like Trump personality-wise. A lot like Trump. Did Trump accidentally part on the J6 pipe bomber? Just seen a lawyer talk about. What do you think? What? I haven't seen anything of that. I haven't seen anything. Trump pardon pipe bomber. Oh, by issuing a mass pardon for the J6 related offenses. It's an interesting theory. I can't answer that off the cuff. I need to look at the language of the pardon. It's a very interesting theory.
Have empathy without discernment is detrimental. You have got to be able to discern when you are carrying too much and you need to take a step back, and none of you are doing that. Believe me, it is possible to care about everything that is going on in the world and not let it consume every single thought that you have and every single conversation that you have. A lot of us are leaving the party in droves because you guys have made it impossible to have any sort of individual thought whatsoever. Like, for instance, if I say that I like RFK Jr. because I want bad chemicals out of my food and because I want to know what's in my vaccines.
Is there a problem? I did miss Uzelian's thing. There was actually two things from him. He sent something earlier. Because we love Hilton and everyone needs to have fun tonight. I missed that. I apologize. And also he sent out, Joe, you're wrong. They've been calling Republicans since Goldwater a Nazi. So since the 60s. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. But she's talking about calling Trump a Nazi. Well done.
You will assume that I am someone who is anti-vax and anti-science, when in fact, all three of my kids and myself have been vaccinated. I just want to tell you
Obviously.
guys something. Every Republican most likely voted for Trump. Every person that voted for Trump is not a Republican. The fact that you guys are so against Trump's administration right now, when most of his administration is former Democrats who have now left the party, y'all look wild. I mean, the Democratic Party has brainwashed people so hard that they are actually advocating against world peace right now. People on the left would rather us keep giving money to Ukraine to fund a war than to even fathom getting Ukraine and Russia at the table to try to agree to peace.
Yep.
A party that I joined because they were so anti-war and I was so against war, now loves war all of a sudden. They have convinced you to love war so much that you are actually fighting for transgender people to be in the military when lots of groups of people are excluded for the military for very valid reasons. For instance, people like me who suffer from anxiety and depression and
Obviously. Obviously.
And even though I'm not currently medicated, I used to take
Obviously. Sorry, she's joining the good guys. I shouldn't mock her.
medication for this, and that would disqualify me from serving in the military. And frankly, I don't have a problem with that. I know damn well that somebody like me has no damn business being on the front lines. Me having the conditions that
All right. Well, that's enough of you then. If you're not sufficiently sane to be on the front lines, I don't need to be sharing you with thousands of people. I'm sorry. But yeah, the point is the same point that I do think that Democrats are starting to question what the hell their party is about. So that's a beautiful thing. And then you have this idiot. There's always gonna be idiots like this. What's this dude's name? I don't know, James O'Brien. The consequences of that might result from supporting Trump's invasion of Venezuela.
You are not allowed to invade foreign countries and kidnap the president. It doesn't matter how awful he is. It doesn't matter whether or not he tortures kittens or pulls the wings off butterflies. It does not. None of it matters. You just don't do it. You don't caveat your support for international law by saying, well, you know, this time, you know, well, the guy they broke international law for, he was a bit of a wrong. That's not how law works, right? You don't, for example, say, well, do you know what? If the police want to kick down someone's door and string him up from the nearest lamppost because they know he's a wrong-un, even though they haven't been able to prove it in a court of law, then, yeah, that's all right. I'll look the other way. And do you know why this
haven't
matters?
been able to prove in a court of law. He's never been in a court of law, doofus.
Do I have to explain? Because next time it could be you.
Next time it could be you. Oh, yeah. That's right. It could be you next time. That's right. That's right. Big yellow stain in that underwear. Big yellow stain.
That's all. Next time it could be your country that gets illegally invaded because the president says it's the right thing to do, or because they have decided that the leader of your country is a wrong-un. You are not.
It's not decided. Everyone's decided that. But yeah, that's a good thing. I want him thinking that. That's right. It could be you next. I mean, listen to like the lunacy of idiots like this. Look at what's happening in your own country where they're breaking down doors for people who tweet wrongly. People who make Facebook posts they don't like, all of a sudden get a hit on the door. It's like, are you stupid? You're worrying about America? You should be worrying about Keir Starmer barging down your door. For some of you, like, oh my God, really? I just retweeted something and now I'm Keir Starmer barging on my door? Are you out of your mind? You lunatic? You're whining about Maduro. Because next time it'll be you. What about all your London neighbors who have been having their butts hauled off to jail because they liked the wrong post? You stupid idiots. You sit there worrying about it. Sit there worrying about that. But Latinos, it's not just Venezuelans. Latinos are all falling in love, supposedly, with Trump.
Democrats, I hope you know you lost the Hispanic vote for generations. Testing the capture of Maduro and asking for his release has offended every single Hispanic voter that there is in the country. Every Hispanic voter knows somebody or has family members from Venezuela or South America. Everybody knows how horrible the dictatorship of Maduro and Chavez has been for Latin Americans. You just keep proving to everyone over and over again that you don't know what you're doing. that you don't care about anyone. You only care about your optics and what it means to be opposed to the Republican Party. Democrats, I hope you know you lost.
They don't know what to do because this was such the reason they don't know what to do is because this is such an obvious, massive win for Trump. Getting Maduro is such an obvious, massive, massive win. They don't know what messaging to put out there. There's no good messaging. What are we going to say? Some of them tried deflecting to Epstein or whatever, but like this is such an obvious, irrefutably amazing win in ways that would turn anyone green with envy. And they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to do with it. Here's someone making that same point. Former Navy SEAL. Reaction to the Venezuelan mission, making that same point.
What was your initial reaction to the news that had broken about Venezuela?
Easy, quick, first thing, Donald Trump sent the most elite fighting force in the world to black bag a commie narco terrorist in the middle of the night, snatched him out of his bed like a bunch of pipe hitters, put him on a plane and flew him back to New York so he could stand trial for everything that he did to Americans. What's better than that? It's unbelievable. This is something that like it makes my heart fill with joy. And my buddies that were texting me with from Delta and from HRT and some of the guys that were part of the operations, when they were texting, like I will say it's a little bit of professional jealousy because that's the op that everybody wants to go on. Like you desire to be a part of that. And you got the left, you got Democrats screaming, imperialism to the top of their lungs. So these are the people, by the way, who are sitting to the side dreaming about making sure your tax dollars go to funding some transgender musical in Caracas. Meanwhile, we've got a president who sends the real dudes to black bag a bad guy and bring him to justice. There's nothing more American than that. So that's kind of my first take on it. And that's exactly what we need to be doing. And that's exactly what we need to support the administration as they continue to do things like this.
There you go. There you go. Someone's amped. Someone is amped. Is CNN still trying to tread water, saying, no, this wasn't such a big win. It really wasn't. We swear it wasn't. Here's lying Jake Tapper.
Recent Washington Post poll finds Americans pretty evenly split on the operation over the weekend.
Pretty evenly split.
40% approve, 42% disapprove, 18% are unsure. When it comes to who should decide the future leadership of Venezuela, 94% say the Venezuelan people, 6% say the United States. One thing I have to say is this was a very successful military operation. The idea that 42% disapprove is a higher number than I would think. It says to me that the American people are thinking not just about this operation, but maybe more about also, well, what comes next?
Well, also it's Trump. I mean, 42% of the American people would oppose it if he cured cancer personally in the Oval Office tonight. I mean, there is a reflexive opposition to Trump. It is the entire platform of the Democratic Party. And to the extent that that's how their leadership tells them to act, that's how the Democratic grassroots are going to see it. You see Democrats today who came on this network and others and called for Maduro's ouster, demanded it.
It's true.
Now saying they oppose the fact that Donald Trump just arrested Maduro. This reflexive opposition to everything Trump does is corrosive of the Democratic Party. And you shouldn't look at these things through that lens. You should look at it and say, highly competent military and law enforcement operation. We got rid of a bad guy. There's a better future for Venezuela, and it's going to inure to the United States' benefit. But, it's Trump, so everything must be opposed. If he's for it,
well, it's not. He literally could cure cancer from the Oval Office, and they would still say, you still find 40% of the country saying, terrible, can't believe he did that, jerk. What about all the doctors and the hospitals that have to make money on cancer? You evil, evil man. You evil man. The Spanish people cannot withhold their joy, even grossly suffering from maladies of the mind. Ana Navarro cannot turn away from her Spanish heritage when talking about Maduro. She can't turn away from it. She stands up to Whoopi Goldberg. She's like, She has to admit it.
So while perhaps no one is going to miss a tyrant like Maduro,
This is how they have to frame it. Like, okay, look, we know Maduro's not a great guy. Like, he's not a great guy, but you know, this is still evil what Trump did. Trump's more evil.
is this a legal thing? I mean, who voted for this? Who said, hey, yeah, go on in there and do this? Because originally, wasn't it, he was concerned about the drugs coming in and out, and yet he pardoned like a giant kingpin. And so what is this all about?
A question, who voted for this? The people in South Florida, the Venezuelan community, the Cuban American community, the Nicaraguan American.
Whoops, didn't see Anna going that way. She's supposed to be so anti-Trump. Whoopi's like, whoa, sorry, I didn't mean to step. I didn't mean to step on your toes, mamacita. She's always talking about the abuelas. You should have known. The abuelas are all happy. The abuelas are all happy.
Community voted for this. And for us, this is a very, very happy day when we see a dictator who has been part of oppressing and abusing the Venezuelan people for 25 years. When we see him in handcuffs and held to some sort of accountability, it brought me to tears. It brought me great joy. And, you know, I live in South Florida. There's these.
So
who voted for this? Everybody. Everybody. I need that on audio. I need an audio clip of Gary Oldman screaming everybody. That's what I need. Just one more real quick. People sick of these paid protesters. They're sick of the paid protesters.
So you probably saw some Democrats, including the new mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, literally declare that what Trump did on Saturday morning was illegal. What do you think of that?
Again, if people don't live through it, they won't know how desperate us Venezuelans are for a change. I know they're talking about Trump only wanting the oil.
So that doesn't bother you that he wants the oil?
But everybody's there for the oil. Russia, Iran, everybody's there for the oil already. China. So if Trump needs the oil to give us freedom, then that's a price we're willing to pay. Just so
Take the oil, Trump. We're fine with it.
that we have our freedom and make a change. In 26 years, nobody has done anything for our country except for Trump. So if that's a price that he's the only one that has made an action on it, and he's the only one that has delivered his promise. So if that's the price we need to pay for it, then that's okay. Venezuela has a lot of other resources. It's not just oil. We have minerals. We have so many other things that once our country is better, then we, as Maria Corina always say, we will be an amazing country. We just need that change and somebody to help us for it.
So it's worth the price of the oil. And by the way, so far, Venezuela already gifted America 50 million barrels of oil. 50 million barrels of oil, which I did the math on this. And if you're considering in a barrel is 42 gallons, which comes out to 2 billion gallons of oil. 2 billion gallons of oil. I did further math on that where I was like, okay, so of that oil, how much becomes gas? Because Venezuelan oil is notoriously crude, which means it needs more refinement, less product coming out of it. They say, according to Grok estimates that it's roughly 15 to 20 gallons of oil for basically 50% of it, a little less than 50% perhaps. Turns into gas, but at a dollar a piece, even if it's 15, you're talking basically $1 billion gift that they made to him. It's basically because it's 2 billion gallons. So basically, and that doesn't include what the value of the crude that they were finding out that there's a value to that too. This is over $1 billion gift that they gave to Trump for taking out Maduro. So, yeah, it seems like Venezuela's okay with it, too. Seems like everyone's okay with it. Everyone's okay with it. I did promise I was going to give some coverage of Minnesota. So I got 2 quick clips before I get on out of here. 2 more quick ones. It's $56 to $60 a barrel now. There you go. So what's $60? Let's just say what's $56. $56 times 50 million. Let's do the math on that. 50 million times 56. That's not right. That's $2,800,000,000. So my very conservative estimate of $1 billion when it really is like $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion. Making America rich again. There you go. Zellian says, Joe, my Brazilian garage door guy said everyone is there to steal your resources. And if you deal with America, at least they pay for it. There you go. There you go. Maybe some of those dollars will make their way to Venezuelans as opposed to the fat cat sitting atop the way it always does with socialism. So I promised you some Minnesota coverage. So I'm going to give this to you real quick. First and foremost, as Uzelian pointed out when he popped in here, Hilton Hotel in Minnesota. It was the particular Hilton Hotel, I forget which one, Everpeak, basically rejected DHS and said, we're not letting anyone from ICE sleep here. Hilton heard about that. And they're like, that's not the way things go here. And then Everpeak retracted it and said, whoops, no, it's okay. ICE can come here. ICE can come here. We're fine with that. Well, Nick Sorter, who's in Minnesota, trying to find his little slice of Nick Shirley love, being real, he went to Everpeak Hotel after that. This was last night. There's more to this story after Nick Sorter went there, but this was him there late last night.
All right, and wish me luck.
This is him at the hotel going to the front desk.
That is straight up black ice. Hello, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Do you have any rooms for tonight?
You should, yeah.
Okay. Like how many? Can we get like 10?
10.
Oh yeah, I know that might be.
Did you already make reservations?
No.
No. What's the name?
It would be.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Please make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons while you're here. And if you think you're subscribed, just double check because you're too often going to be unsubscribed.
Just Nick. I just put it under my personal. I don't know if you can use a government rate or not, but.
It depends because there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Is it what agency is it for? Using the government rate?
It'd be Department of Homeland Security.
I do want to, in case someone drops out of here early, I do want to point out that by the time you're done with this story, you're not going to be angry at Hilton. You might be angry at Everpeak, but not at Hilton.
So we're not accepting people from immigration, ICE agents, DHS into our property. It's just our management ownership.
Okay, I thought that changed today. Was that?
I just talked to my the owner of the building, and he didn't say there has been any changes. So
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just policy, you know.
Yeah, I mean
they
that's
said.
not your fault. Totally,
Yeah.
Totally get that. So they actually said that was like, I mean, honestly, this is the most convenient location. So
Right.
it's like, so they told you no, that there's no.
Yeah, no. immigration.
Well, DHS isn't all
Yeah.
immigration. Okay. Okay. So even with the thing that they said earlier, where they mentioned that there was a statement that they put out, saying that they accept everybody and.
I haven't been informed. I can call my owner right now if you want.
I will point out, by the way, he's dead, Jim, that I had the same reaction as you. My first thing is like, I'm never going to Hilton again. But they did right in this story. You'll see.
Yeah, that'd probably be good. Just trying to figure it out. So because it's somebody said, I didn't know it was this location, but Everpeak Hospitality, right?
I'm new here,
okay.
So I don't really know what's.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
That haircut reeks of someone who wrote this new policy.
Yeah, I'll just call him.
Yeah, that's not a very good idea. Just to be clear, like I'm not trying to cause any problems. It's just it's 11 o'clock now.
Right.
So
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. I'll be right back.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So nobody's answering my calls right now.
Okay.
Because of the time. But.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is Everpeak though, and they said Everpeak Hospitality has moved swiftly to address this matter as it was inconsistent with our policy of being a welcoming place for all. We are in touch with the impacted guests to ensure they are accommodated without discriminating against any individuals or agencies and apologize to those impacted. It's kind of long. I don't know. I was kind of surprised. I thought we were good to go. Like I said, not everybody with DHS is immigration. That's just
right. Yeah, I get that, but it's
it's also a fraud investigation. I guess we'll just say as well. So.
Yeah, but
okay, no problem at all. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. Not your fault.
Answer the phone.
All right. So they lied. Hilton and the Hampton Inn out here in Everpeak Hospitality lied. Full of shit. And now they are going to, well, let's just say they effed around and it's find out time. They almost got a little bit of a pass the first time, right? You thought they may have learned their lesson. And this is why I said that their talk it means nothing. People were saying, oh, well, no, they said that they're going to change their policy. They lied. They didn't do it. So
Everpeak claimed that they were going to.
They're now going to get Bud Lighted. Congratulations, Hilton. You can take Hilton. You can take your name off that sign tomorrow. Today, you could do it. But we'll see if you will.
And indeed, they did. Hilton cut ties with Minnesota hotel owner after DHS ICE agents allegedly denied service. Everpeak Hospitality had claimed Monday the issue was resolved, but journalist footage showed otherwise.
Nueva Jersey, la inscripción abierta está aquí. Ahora es el momento de obtener un seguro médico económico y de calidad de Get Covered New Jersey.
The House Oversight Committee is calling on Tim Walz to testify.
Why do you do this, Fox? Why do you give me a link to some stupid thing, nothing to doing with what? It's so aggravating. Do I have to go to a different story to find the video coverage, your video coverage of this story? It's so stupid. It's so aggravating. God, I don't know why I ever click anything, Fox. Hilton Hotels announced on Tuesday that it's ending its relationship with an independently owned Minneapolis area hotel after a newly released video appeared to confirm that the property was still refusing to accommodate DHS and ICE agents. The decision came shortly after a video released Tuesday morning by independent journalist Nick Sorter showed him attempting to book a block of rooms at the Hampton Inn by Hilton in Lakeville, Minnesota, where a front desk staff member confirmed the hotel was still barring DHS and ICE agents. Staff member statements in the secretly recorded video appeared to directly contradict a Monday apology from the hotel management's company, Everpeak Hospitality, which said that the issue had been resolved and the property did not discriminate. Quote, the independent hotel owner had assured us that they had fixed this problem and published a message confirming this, Hilton said in a statement to Fox News. A recent video clearly raises concerns that they are not meeting our standards and values. As such, we are taking immediate action to remove this hotel from our systems. Hilton is and has always been a welcoming place for all. We're always engaging with all of our franchisees to reinforce the standards we hold them to across our system to help ensure this does not happen again. So like I said, some of you are saying Hilton's in on it. I'll tell you this much, at least they're publicly giving the right message. I tip my cap that they're basically saying we don't stand for this and trying to show that they take steps in that direction. So I will certainly, I'm not saying that they're heroes here, but this is a good sign for them. Everpeak Hospitality released a statement Monday saying that it's committed to welcoming all guests and operating in accordance with brand standards. Billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, who said he's a Hilton shareholder, praised Hilton's handling of the quickly unfolding controversy. Apparently, Hilton Hotels is terminating the franchise effective immediately, Ackman wrote. Credit to Nick Sorter for his investigative work. And credit to Hilton Hotels for its responsiveness, he wrote in another post. So there you go. There you go. That's Bill Ackman there. So the other Minnesota thing I wanted to share with you. Trouble is a brewing for Timmy. Trouble is a brewing. Oh my God. This fire. It's like every time you think that you hit max level, it's like someone throws like another couple of just like explosive bombs underneath that fire that pot of fire, bubbling cauldron that he finds himself in now. It's getting much worse, much, much, much worse for Tim Walz. This guy, I'll tell you right now, my gut says, I think he's going to go to jail. I think he may go to jail. I think there's a good chance. Good chance. He's certainly going to face indictment. I don't know if he get convicted, but I'm saying I think he's going to face criminal charges, this guy. Check this out. Breaking bombshell, Minnesota auditor report just dropped. It confirms Tim Walz's Department of Human Services fabricated records and did not verify grant recipients. Tried covering their tracks, enabling massive fraud. It just got 10,000 times worse. Walz must resign. Tim Walz. Check out this report. This report is lethal. This is a bunch of white women going after Tim Walz for his fraud. This is bad. If you're a Tim Walz fan, what's his daughter's name? Joni Walz, whatever. Kiss your daddy, because he got some problems. Hope, that was her name, Hope Walz.
Against fraud. The performance audit shows the Behavioral Health Administration sent millions of dollars out the door in grants without making proper checks into who was receiving them. And that is not even the most jaw-dropping finding.
They sent money out and didn't do any checks to see who they're sending it out. People would just could send in any crap, and they just cut checks to them.
Lou Raguse has tonight's top story. Lou?
Julie, according to the nonpartisan legislative auditor, this is another case of mismanagement of taxpayer money. But perhaps the most explosive revelation is that managers within DHS, the Department of Human Services, tried to cover their tracks by backdating and creating new documents.
There are people going to jail here. I know Tim Walz is one of them. There are people going to jail. And I'm sure they're going to be offered to flip on Tim Walz.
But I do want to talk about what a serious issue this is and how it is, frankly, unacceptable.
Another sobering report by the Office of the Legislative Auditor, this one concerning the Behavioral Health Administration within the Department of Human Services, which issues grants to providers treating mental health and drug and alcohol addiction, hundreds of millions of dollars.
I just want you to take it. Those of you who have not heard the story, okay? They're about to tell you about one case which was particularly egregious, where someone submitted a claim for a lot of money. Their first month, they hadn't provided any receipts. Okay, come up with a number that you think, okay, this makes sense for 1 month worth of work. 1 month worth of work that they got in grants without ever showing any receipts at all. Just come up with a number. Don't say like, $10 million. Come up with a number that you like, that if you heard this number, you'd be like, that's crazy. So someone just sends you some forms. You don't check out whether any of it's true, and you just cut them a check for $20,000, $50,000. Come up with a number. For 1 month, 4.5 million. Come on. And when you hear 500K, you think, okay, that's kind of crazy, right? Check this story out.
Each year, the audit found them.
120K is insane. 120K is insane. 150K first month. Imagine you just fill out some forms, and like all of a sudden they cut you a check, and they give you $150,000. You have no proof of anything. Any idiot, like a retarded person, the biggest criminal on earth, no proof that there's a facility, no proof that there's anything. And the first month, they're like, oh, here's $150,000. You're like, are you out of your minds? What the hell's wrong with you? Are you insane? It wasn't 150.
That's to applicants without a bidding process.
So what we saw is that there was multiple entities that could have been eligible, and they chose not to provide a justification for why they were picking those.
That was another thing. I forgot about this part of it. That they basically selected who they were working partnership, which organizations they were working partnership without who they were going to be funding and giving money to for various projects, and that they weren't, and they basically didn't put it up for a bid. And instead, they just gave it to people that they like. Government's not supposed to work that way. You're supposed to be making sure that you're getting a competitive price, not just doling out to your friends who invariably end up kicking money back to your campaign. That's what I'm saying. This guy's in trouble. He's in serious, serious trouble.
The report is quite stunning.
One outrageous example. The auditors found a grantee that was paid $672,000 for 1 month of work without any info on what they do. And the audit says,
we don't even know what they do. We just sent them $670,000. We don't know what they do the first month. We have no idea. We sent $670,000 out the window. We have no idea what they do. That's astonishing. It's amazing. $670,000. We don't know what they do. First month. I thought 150 was crazy. $670,000. And they don't know what they're like. We don't know anything about them. We just sent them a check.
the grant manager who paid it then left DHS a couple days later and became a paid consultant for that company.
Oh my gosh! The guy who approved it quits and then basically goes there and says, oh, I'm the consultant there now. Oh, people are going to jail. I'm telling you now, people are going to jail. People are going to jail. I guarantee you that person got like at least a third of the money.
To me, that's criminal.
Auditor Judy Randall says she...
Not just to you, to anyone sane. That's a crime that happened right there. $670,000.
He was most shocked that during the audit, multiple DHS managers backdated or created new documents to try to cover their tracks.
Frankly, in the 27...
Oh, yeah, we just kicked $670,000 out the window. We have no idea what they do. And the guy who signed off on it left and became a consultant that just received for this company that just got $670,000. So instead of trying to collect it, let's backdate some records now to try and fix everything up. Oh my God. This is astonishing. It's astonishing levels of corruption. This is something you don't see. You don't see corruption like this. So, and we're a week into an investigation here. This is just like 2 weeks in. 2 weeks into this investigation, they're already finding this. People are going to jail. I'm telling you now, people are going to jail.
plus years I've been with OLA, I have never seen this before. I will say we
Clip that.
have had suspicions periodically, but we have never been able to prove it, to document it, and we did in this case, and it's very troubling.
Tipperary DHS Commissioner Shireen Gandhi's response.
I was shocked to hear this information in the exit conference, and it is absolutely unacceptable that any staff would provide anything other than accurate representation of the work done to an auditor.
And I'll just point out, these are white women. These are white women. A bunch of white women are finding fraud. Who would have thought you'd see that? A bunch of liberal white women are sitting there like, what the hell's happening here?
Now, there were a lot of questions from lawmakers about whether this audit should result in criminal investigations.
You think?
So we'll see what comes from that. The Office of the Legislative Auditor provides recommendations both to the department and to lawmakers in case law changes are needed. Just one more time of what the auditor said regarding this fabrication of documents. She called it a systemic problem within DHS.
Meaning this is not a one-time thing. This is something they were doing regularly. Happening regular. And they're going to start tying more and more of it to Tim Walz. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm really feeling it. I'm really feeling it. He's going to be facing an indictment. It's coming.
I mean, Lou, it just seems like every time you think it can't get worse.
It's going to get.
I do think this is jaw dropping.
It's going to get worse. It will get worse. I'm telling you, it will get much worse. Much worse.
You mentioned that they were talking about criminal investigations. I think I speak for a lot of people watching right now who really want there to be some kind of accountability. Did you get any sense from that meeting today or in talking to any of your sources that there actually will be accountability?
Well, no, that's something that's going to require some follow-up, because one problem the auditors had is they didn't have subpoenas to issue to people that no longer work for the BHA within the DHS. And so they couldn't bring those people in and question them. And so it would take an outside agency such as law enforcement to look into it.
They didn't even subpoena anyone yet. They didn't even subpoena anyone. This is just like, it's on the surface. It's staring them in the face. In the face, it's staring at them. Like there's the levels of fraud and corruption and backdating and self-dealing and stupidity that it's a criminal level recklessness. Criminal level recklessness and self-dealing where you're giving out to your own friends different project assignments and paying them tons of money when there are other capable people who you're not submitting them a bid for them. This is an astonishing level of corruption. I'm not saying that on a scale, you won't find other states out there which are far worse because there are larger states and there's much more money flowing back and forth there. So it's much easier to get gobs of money. So if there's 20 billion in Minnesota or 50 billion in Minnesota, it might end up being 300 billion in California or 500 billion in California because it's a much, much, much bigger state. I'm simply saying the level of corruption here, the level of corruption is so gross and egregious that I cannot fathom that this guy, Tim Walz, and those in his circle, I'm talking about Ellison, I'm talking about everyone around him, his Secretary of State, they are all in serious danger right here, serious trouble. And I'd be shocked if we don't see indictments because $600,000 out the window. And the guy leaves and says, oh, I work for them now. Let me cut you a check. Sorry, I can't make it for $3 million. And I'll start working for you. What the hell is that? With no investigation, no records to verify anything. And then when you find out about it, you backdate records to try covering it up. It's unbelievable. It's astonishing. So couldn't happen to a nicer guy than Tim Walz. One of the people's choices. Timmy. Fraud everywhere, Timmy. And that's why I started tonight's show with this, and I'm going to close with this also. I started with this song, and we're going to close with this song. Let me just get to these real fast, but I'm going to close out with this song. Happy New Year, Joe. Good to see you. Aftermath aside, how about the CAG operation, huh? You're the greatest military operation on the planet. God bless you, sir. God bless you, GMB. Member for 21 months. I'm going to give you the horn for that. Petty Eddie says, off topic, what do you think is the future of juries due to the vast information on the internet? Can people be trusted enough to make unbiased judgments? Are we headed to AI jurors? I don't think we're headed to AI jurors, no. That I don't see happening in the next 5 years. I can't tell you what's going to be 10 years from now. I can't even tell you really what's going to be 10 weeks from now. Probably not even 10 days. But if I get 10 minutes, I'm feeling pretty good about myself for the day. So, yeah, but I don't foresee it. We're a very long way off from having AI juries. Can people be trusted enough to make unbiased judgments? They've never been trustworthy to make unbiased judgments. People always make judgments based on their biases. Always. Just ask yourself when you're not in a jury selection, when you're just dealing with people day by day, you're always going to have your biases. That's just the nature of how we function as humans. But will people cheat and go to AI for guidance? Probably. If we don't find out about it, what's going to end up happening? It might be corrupt, at least it was diverse. That's true. Good point. It was diverse. Very diverse. Jacob says, nobody's going to jail Joe. Judge Sarah West. We'll see. Spud says, Venezuela crude is great for making asphalt and out of infrastructures, and our infrastructure in dire need of reconstruction. I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that at all. All right. So again, in honor of Tampon Timmy's in honor of Tampon Timmy's impending indictment, that he has to know that this is totally coming down the road for him. They haven't even started subpoenas yet. This is just what's visible on the surface. Visible on the surface. This guy's in trouble. He's a mess. Visible on the surface that they're backdating stuff. We already can look at this and see that they're backdating stuff. They haven't started subpoenas, having people roll over on other people. I'm telling you, this is a story I'm going to be covering a lot. I'm going to end up making trips out to Minnesota. I got a feeling I'm going to end up making trips out to Minnesota to cover trials on this one. I'm feeling it. I hope they're in the summer because Minnesota is freaking cold. It's freaking cold. All right. Well, you know what they say. Lamb meat, never meant for you. Don't touch it. It's meant for Tim Walz. And I'll see you all tomorrow, right? Make sure you hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Do the algorithm. Drop a comment down there. Also, I didn't really ask you this. I meant to ask you this on the J6 thing. Do you think that J6 is something we should be mourning? Something we should be celebrating? I'm going to take a quick look here. What do you guys think about that? Do you think we should be mourning, celebrating J6? Now that everyone's freed and Trump has been reelected, do you think it's something that's like a historically significant, good day? Or is it still a horrible day, a day for memory? I'm checking. I'm giving you guys I'll give you guys another 60 seconds on that as I'm queuing up my outro song here for Tim Walz. You think neither? I'm not sure if you said neither or neither. Which was? Did you say neither or did you say neither? A day to reflect. $22 more likes. Need to keep going. Well, I'm going to keep going with an outro. That's just funny as all heck. So. It happened. All right. I personally think I look at it as a day of patriotism on full display. That's what I think. That's what I think of it. Patriotism on full display. Marred by some of the violence, but patriotism. And I think I agree with this. Something to be remembered always. Do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't do it. Have a good night, everyone. And as always, Godspeed.
I'm Tampon Tim, the people's friend. Free tampons for all the men. Daycare's full of kids, well, kinda. But the money goes to my dear friends from Somalia. Hey, 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 hey. Fraud all day. Billions gone astray. Ghost kids, no one's there. Welcome to Tampon Tim's Daycare. Tampons in the boys' room, that's my plan. While my friends cash checks across the land. Feeding our future, what a name. Empty buildings, still the same. Hey, hey, fraud all day. Billions gone astray. Ghost kids, no one's there. Welcome to Tampon Tim's Daycare.